hear often about UCSA, the United Ulama Council of South Africa. It's an umbrella body of the major ulama formations in our country, and it does a lot of work with regards national and international issues. Being a umbrella body for the major ulama formations across the country, UCSA regularly has meetings in various parts of the country, and its members like the MJC, the Jamiatul Ulama South Africa, Jamiatul Ulama KZN, Darul Ihsan, Sunni Ulama Council, etc., send representatives to these meetings, and issues of great importance are discussed with various stakeholders and role players in our country. Recently, the United Ulama Council of South Africa held a meeting here in Lenasia at the Sabri Chisti Hall. And to tell us about some of the discussions and interactions at that meeting, we are joined this morning by the President of UCSA, Abdul Khalik Ibrahim Ali, and the Secretary General of UCSA, Maulana Yusuf Patel. Abdul Khalik, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Hazrat Maulana Sulaiman, and to our beloved, esteemed Maulana Yusuf Patel sahab.
Maulana Yusuf, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Abdul Khalik, let me start with you. What were some of the important issues discussed at this two-day meeting held last week, Monday and Tuesday, here in Lenasia?
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh once again to all the viewers and listeners of Radio Islam. And let me from the offset thank you, Maulana, for facilitating this particular broadcast. Alhamdulillah. Now, I would like to start by speaking about the fact that the United Ulama Council of South Africa, since its formation, is 3 decades. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, as a start, we would like to acknowledge, and this was part of our presentation at the UCSA meeting, to acknowledge the massive contribution made by our founding fathers, and how they have kept the United Ulama Council of South Africa together. And hence, it is important to share with our listeners and our viewers that the United Ulama Council of South Africa, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, plays a very important and central role in the Muslim community in our country. And at the same time, also, it has an international footprint. The foundation of that is Mashura. The foundation of that is the importance of consultation. And our Honorable Maulana Yusuf Patel, as the Secretary General, could obviously elaborate on that. That has kept UCSA together, kept our members together, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And as part of what we envisage of the future is to say, if we have got such a wonderful, and we are thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the leadership that Allah has provided to the United Ulama Council of South Africa, it is by time that the United Ulama Council of South Africa needs to reach out and to be able to take its success, Alhamdulillah, to the other countries, to the SADC region, to the international community. It would be important for us to record that elements and mechanisms that has contributed, Alhamdulillah, to the success of the United Ulama Council of South Africa. And that brings me to the point of, amongst the things that we have discussed is, we have engage with ambassadors in our country, and as such, Alhamdulillah, the United Ulama Council of South Africa has received an invitation from Mauritania, one of our leading countries when it comes to ulama and the Islam and the Sharia. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, we have positively deliberated on the invitation that we've received, and hopefully the United Ulama Council of South Africa will take a delegation of ulama and scholars to visit Mauritania, to meet the ulama and the scholars there, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And further to that, some of the local issues that we have debated on. We are in election year 2024. It is a very critical year. We have identified our role, and over the period of time for the past more than a year, UCSA has been discussing elections 2024, and that is one of the key areas that we focused on, alhamdulillah, as part of our deliberations and our discussions. And we are extremely grateful, our attendance, Maulana, at this particular meeting was extremely beneficial when we take note that all 9 members of the United Ulama Council of South Africa from across the country attended this particular meeting, and we are extremely grateful for each and every member of the United Ulama Council of South Africa.
Now, Maulana Yusuf, we understand there was a meeting that took place within these 2 days with Muslim leadership and the ANC delegation. Can you give us some insight into what was discussed and what was the purpose and outcome of those meetings?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This year's elections are probably going to change the political landscape of South Africa, given the fact that we may be governed by a coalition of political parties at national level for the first time in South Africa since 1994. And coalition governance, in the absence of a framework, may well lead to a replay of the musical chairs we witnessed in Johannesburg. So, political parties are generally not willing to self-regulate. They will continue to prioritize power and well-paid positions over policy and principle. So the first session was, as you said, with Muslim leadership who are not necessarily politically aligned to any specific party. The purpose of the meeting was to focus on answering one critical question: how do we make an informed choice at the ballot box? What are the best possible options available to the Muslim electorate in the forthcoming elections? And some of the views expressed include the following, and I'll be very brief. One was that members agreed that voting for those who support Zionism is certainly not an option for Muslims. This then brought about the question of whether we should be advocating support for the ANC, given their courageous application to the ICJ and their unreserved condemnation of the genocide in Gaza. Another issue that was discussed at length is whether it is practical and sensible to support a Muslim political party which can then muster significant leverage in a coalition government. So that was basically the first meeting. The second meeting was with the ANC delegation led by the Deputy Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Alvin Boertes, which focused on South Africa's application to the International Court of Justice and some of the consequences of South Africa's intervention, more particularly the USA's attempt at renegotiating or reviewing its preferential trade agreement with South Africa. Some of the issues raised with the ANC delegation was whether South Africans serving in the IDF in Israel have the right to do so. Number two, what about the flow of monies to Israel from big business in South Africa? Is this legitimate? Is this within the parameters of law? And thirdly, members emphasized an appeal to the ANC to introspect and accelerate its organizational renewal program in an attempt to address cronyism, corruption, and incompetence in the party. So this was basically an overview of the two meetings that we held.
Abdul Khalik, we understand there was also a virtual meeting with Dr. Khalid Uwaisi. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, indeed. You know, Dr. Khalid Al-Waisi is an expert on Palestinian matters, and we brought him into discussion so that he could highlight some of the critical points of discussion around Gaza and the genocide and the war that is taking place on the Palestinians. And I must acknowledge that when we listen to Dr. Khalid Al-Uwaisi, he comes across very sincerely and with great emotion. He, in all of his discussion and presentation, he touched the hearts of the ulama by sketching the scenario of Gaza, but at the same time speaking about Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa Al-Mubarak and the threat on on Masjid Al-Aqsa Al-Mubarak, and hence it is a very critical matter that Dr. Khalid Al-Uwaisi came across. But at the same time also, he appeals to the world conscience and to be saying that he creates the situation of the apathy within the 2 billion Muslims, that here across the border there are people who don't have water to drink, they don't have food to eat, and we are so powerless that we cannot even get a glass of water across that particular border. He questions, in actual fact, what is the state of this particular ummah. And this has been one of the consistent messages of Dr. Khalid Al-Uwaisi. Those of us who have listened to him are truly inspired by his contribution. And the reality of the situation is, Maulana Sulaiman, that the issue of Gaza and the issue of the Palestinian cause and Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa Al-Mubarak was a central discussion at our UQSA meeting, keeping in mind that it is indeed a watershed moment. It is a moment that is recorded in history, and as far as possible, the United Ulama Council of South Africa, we have a duty and responsibility. And if you'd allow me, one of the points that the ANC-led delegation presented to the United Ulama Council of South Africa is to say, you have a duty and responsibility to engage the Arab countries, the Arab League. You've got a duty and responsibility to address a communication with the OIC, and that is what South African government is expecting from us. And so Dr. Khalid Al-Uwaisi is a very key person to the United Ulama Council of South Africa. We were blessed by hosting him a few years ago, and his analysis of the scenario that plays itself out is very critical for our own understanding. And it is therefore a very important discussion for us to continue having with Dr. Khalid Al-Uwaisi.
Maulana Yusuf, finally then, the topical issue at the moment is the Bella Bill. What are some of the concerns regarding the Bella Bill?
Let me first say what the Bella Bill is not about. And this has become necessary given the incessant flow of disinformation. So firstly, the bill does not talk about abortion or termination of pregnancy. There is one provision in the bill in relation to pregnancy, and it says that pregnancy management in schools will occur through regulation. That's the only reference to the question of abortion or pregnancy in the bill. Secondly, the bill does not prescribe a curricula for homeschoolers. The bill has nothing to do with the curriculum. The bill is about management and governance of schools. Thirdly, the bill is not targeting religion or language of any particular group. What the bill wants to do is to disallow certain race groups to use language policy to keep a school racially exclusive to one race. So generally, the the school would determine its language policy, and that language policy will then exclude other race groups. So the provincial heads of education departments will now have the power to review the school's language policy and to review the admission policy of schools, which means that the role of school governing bodies will be, would be subject to the endorsement in terms of both language policy and admission, subject to the department's endorsement. So I think so that's one of the critical issues that the bill aims to address, using language as a basis of keeping schools exclusively for one race group. The bill also proposes making grade R the new compulsory school starting age. It speaks about penalties for parents who do not ensure that the children are in school from grade R now to grade 9. That means from 7 to 15 years of age, because that is the compulsory school going age. And all homeschoolers must be registered. So if someone is homeschooling their child or their children, that would now be subject to a registration and some kind of review from the department.
All right, Maulana Abdul Khalik and Maulana Yusuf Patel, shukran to both of you for your time this morning and for giving us a report on the recent UCSA meeting.
Jazakumullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Jazakumullah.
Just gone 8:31. Time now for the news headlines.
News headlines.